Network. We love sports.
Hello, everyone, and a wonderful Tuesday evening to you, September 3rd. The rent is due, and I still have to pay. But it is just that kind of day. Beautiful day in Aggie Land. A little late showers here for us this evening. You know, about the last week when I've wanted to go run an errand, there's been just random downpour that comes out and kind of puts a cramp on all that style. So got a lot of things on the to-do list, as does Texas A&M football. Maybe that should have been a sign for us and the kind of week we were going to have Saturday with Notre Dame in town. But we look forward to McNeese State, and specifically, we're going to talk a little bit about the offensive line. Some struggles against Notre Dame, but also moving forward, the injury to Mark Nabou and Koli Nu'ufayu stepping in nailed that. I had to restart this recording just to get his name right. But we'll talk about how that affects things, as you see with the title of this video. We'll talk about the return of power and what that was like, and hear from Mike Elko, Connor Wigman on just the vibes with that, a little insight into that. We've got Pat McAfee talking about his experience at Texas A&M during college game day. We've got a new Applebee's commercial with Dan Campbell. What can the guy not do? He might win a Super Bowl, and he might win an Emmy too, starring in all these commercials. We've got a little bit of some other sports at the end. We'll talk a little cross country. We'll talk a little women's golf, and then we will be caught up on everything that has happened on campus to this point so far this academic year. But we will start with the title of this video, The Return of Power. It took me by surprise and did not foresee it coming. I will just point out, I wish I had this video available, didn't think to have it, but when they did the Lone Star Showdown big special announcement that it's basically just going to have a sponsor, they introduced Trev Alberts. And when they did that, they played the run out music from last year's introductions pregame. So I heard that, and, you know, there's always clamoring, you know, people on the message boards talking about like bring back power. But I'm like, how much do people really, the people in charge, see this stuff, and how much do they care? And then, you know, I heard that and I'm like, okay, well, that's just, it's over. Like, they're just going to use this. They clearly like this song. They're going to use it again. I don't think it's the best thing out there, but I guess we're going to go for it again for another year. And then when you're on the field, as I talked about, I think on yesterday's show, it was kind of fascinating and funny because I think probably like 70% of the crowd who is not super like, hey, you got to keep in mind, like there's a lot of people that go to these games that don't go to every single game, right? And they're not super plugged into all the, like, you could take power out, put it in, they probably don't even notice, right? So I'd say like 70% of the crowd was just like, you know, into the run out, and, you know, obviously a big game. And then the power came on, power came on, and I feel like one of those old people. And there was like a secondary surge of excitement. It wasn't like a universal, like, oh my God, but it was like a, if you know kind of thing. But it definitely did kind of just pour a little bit of gasoline on that crowd in terms of gassing them up. We talked to Mike Elko, Connor Wigman, Alex Miller, asking from the Bryan College Station Eagle, asking him about the decision to bring back power, and Connor Wigman as well. This is what they had to say.
How would you assess just how Koli Nu'u played?
Hold on. Take two.
I think the crowd went crazy when y'all came out to power. Just what went into deciding to bring that back, and how'd y'all keep that under wraps for so long?
Well, so you guys have often asked me how my experience at Texas A&M has helped me. And one of the things I've learned over the years is if you don't want something to get out, don't tell anyone. And so that's maybe where my experience at Texas A&M has helped me. So yeah, we were sitting on that one for a long time. That was something I know that was really important to this fan base. I know that's something that's really important to Kyle Field. And I think when we had a change in leadership in the athletic department, we kind of felt like that was something we could bring back, and that's kind of when it got put in motion.
So was that you, or did you collaborate with players on bringing that back at all?
I don't think I needed to ask the players. what they wanted, and I didn't tell the players. I didn't ask them. I didn't tell them. I didn't ask anybody. I didn't tell anybody. I know what that song means to Kyle Field.
Now, he didn't tell Soul, which was pretty impressive because you know how quickly stuff gets out around here. But, yeah, it was cool just being in the tunnel and you hear it come on. Everybody look at each other. We're like, no way. It was a pretty cool feeling. Pretty cool feeling.
All right, second takeaway from that: don't tell anyone anything in College Station, or it will get out. Apparently, that's a pretty universal theme. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was electric. Just kind of the unannounced surprise aspect of it. And again, we talked about this on the show Monday. My honest thoughts: I didn't have on Power specifically. I didn't have one super strong feeling pro or against bringing it back. I mean, I understand. It's lit. I mean, I know that, my understanding too is like it's a sample, like that intro is like actually a sample of another song. So it's not, if you want to distance yourself from Kanye, then you can kind of maybe justify that. I thought it was interesting. I don't think any of the rap actually played from Kanye. I don't know if that was just deliberate or that's just when they happened to turn it off, kind of like a meet me in the middle kind of thing. And look, if they decided not to bring back Power, I mean, I don't want to get too political into it, but like, I'll just say, I think it was very understandable to drop it when they did. I mean, Kanye was saying some pretty crazy things at the time in regards to loving certain people in Germany that if I said their name, would probably get this demonetized. So like, I understood it then. I also understand that the intro they had last year, quite frankly, was a little lame. It felt a little cheesy. I do like the fireworks pyrotechnics that they brought out last year. I thought that was like super way over the top, which kind of felt on brand for Texas A&M in a good way. But yeah, I mean, I think you bring back Power and I don't know. No harm, no foul. I don't have a strong opinion on it other than, I think the thing that helps the most is if you're winning games and you're playing big opponents, and then that can help you really rejuvenate Kyle Field. But I don't know, interesting moment there. And I did think it was kind of, and maybe the most fascinating dynamic is new athletic director in town, and like no need to carry over that tradition, and Mike Elko feeling the latitude to just say, yeah, we're going to do this. And like, I'm not going to talk to like board of regents or this or that. Like, we can kind of handle this internally. It's not that big of a deal. Maybe that's the most interesting part of the seeing how that dynamic played out, but just a little fun to start off on a Tuesday. All right, now let's talk about some other stuff here. We heard a little bit of it earlier, accidentally. Koli Nu'ufayu starting at center for Texas A&M for the foreseeable future after the injury to Mark Nabou. Now, this is unfortunate, yet potentially, barring other injuries, not maybe a massive, massive setback, in terms of the five on the field at any given point. Again, depth, it hurts. Having options, it hurts. But if Fayu can play well enough, hopefully, just like the running back situation between Moss, Daniels, and Smith, if they can all three play well enough, would you love to have Reuben Owens? You would. But if the difference of having him and not, you obviously want it to be as little as possible, as little of a fall off as possible. So this is what Mike Elko kind of had to say about that battle, and keep an eye on how it sounded like this starting battle was going, even if there was no injury to Mark Nabou.
How would you assess just how Koli Nu'u played in replacing Mark? And I know he went down a little bit late. Is he good to go for Saturday?
Oh, Koli's fine. Yeah. Koli just got nicked up. He's fine. I thought he played well. I mean, he's a kid who's played a lot of football. It's why we brought him here. He battled all the way through it. It really went all the way to about Thursday before we kind of settled on where we were going with that starting offensive line. And I don't know, even if Mark was healthy, that we still wouldn't have conversations about who the best five were. And Mark would obviously be in that conversation, and so too would Koli. And I just think that's how we want this to go from a competition standpoint. And so, I thought he played really well, and we expected him to. And I think he'll continue to do that moving forward.
So you heard it there. even if Nabou was maybe healthy, Fayu might still be able to play his way on the field based on, just everything they've seen throughout fall camp and presumably how well Fayu was playing in that game against Notre Dame. I also thought it was interesting. He had another question from Brent Swarneman. The question was basically, every position, if it feels like, and this is not just an A&M thing, as Brent laid out with his question, how he framed it, like every position, if a guy's struggling, it's easy to just kind of rotate him in, rotate him out. It feels like it's seamlessly, but like quarterback, it's like you have your guy and they're the guy, unless like catastrophic something or another. So Mike Elko came back, though, and answered that question in an interesting way. He basically, first of all, he kind of disagreed with the premise. Like, he understood what Brent was saying, but he kind of answered it to say, everything that happens over the course of the game, we might have 70 plays for one side of the ball in one game to evaluate. But between practice and everything else, we've seen the kids in thousands and thousands of reps. So it might feel like, halfway through a game, we've seen 30 plays. We're like, why are you still sticking with this guy? Why are you doing this? In their mind, they've had a lot of, they've done a lot of homework in terms of seeing where all these guys are at. So I guess I say that to say, in terms of talking about Fayu and how he was playing and the battle, that this was still, and it seemed like a fairly open competition up until Nabou's injury and even after, and even if he was feeling better. So I don't know. I mean, I guess take with that what you will. I guess if you wanted to be pessimistic, you could say no one really owned it. And even between those two, Nabou impressed better. On the other hand, and the O-line didn't play great as a whole, if you think that. On the other hand, Nabou didn't, it sounds like, necessarily clearly just take that and run with it either. Not to say they're not fully capable. I think it could be a good thing, right? Like they're both pushing each other. But I don't know. We'll just see how that plays out. See how the chemistry works out. Obviously the center, making all the checks and kind of being the quarterback of that offensive line. We'll see maybe that dynamic as well. Fortunately, I think you do feel a lot better knowing Fayu has played a lot of football at his previous stops. So I think that puts some things at ease. Also, he's coming from, if I'm not mistaken, Utah. I was going to say, coming from a program that has a pretty good pedigree of good physical football. So that would make me feel good if I'm an Aggie. And good to know, by the way, that Fayu was not seriously banged up at the end of the game, as he alluded to. I will share this, too, while I'm thinking of it. I was thinking about doing a segment on this earlier in the week. Probably won't do it, but kind of talking about outside analysts' thoughts on the opener for Texas A&M against Notre Dame. And Cole Kubelik kind of puts out his weekly thread of his – what's he call it? His Sunday SEC takeaways. So this is what he had for Texas A&M, which relates to this topic today. O-line was not great. Too much pressure allowed, slide protection problems, middle not stout enough. Quarterback drifted at times, some into pressure, turnovers killer. You can build around 8, Le'Veon Moss. Needed more play action to stretch the field, and then he gets into the defense. We'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. But just to finish up the offensive discussion, I think, Notre Dame only the one sack and some of the pressure maybe self-inflicted from Connor Wigman. But, the run game, like we talked about right after the game, it was weird. It wasn't like they were getting blown up TFL after TFL after TFL and they just nothing ever, but they were not gashing Notre Dame, or it felt like kind of putting the pressure on over the course of the game the way Notre Dame did, to where maybe, you try to hit through that door, hit through that wall, you're coming, and then finally you break the dam, and then you bust off those big gains. That did not happen either. So is that a strength and conditioning thing? Is that a like what do you have to do in order to make sure that you're gonna, even if you're not picking up the big gains early, even if you're not, letting in everyone just right through, how do you make sure that you're kind of wearing the defense down and really laying on them over the course of the game, especially if this offense is indeed going to be kind of centered around the run game, as it seems like it might need to be, not just based off Connor Wigman, but based off how Kansas State primarily played with this system and the best weapons you have around you. And right now, I think the most sure, confident thing you have to lay your hat on, or to lean on, I should say, is probably the run game for Texas A&M. So that's what we got there. The rest of Mr. Kublick's take, by the way, if you're curious, we'll just do this real quick. D-line was really good. For Shamar Stewart, impressive. Was a consistent problem when in. 11-5, solid. That's Nick Scorton and Shamar Turner. Perimeter defenders got stuck on blocks some, jumped around a bit to give up some. Pressures were there. Could not get quarterback to the ground. Quarterback pin and pull. Got them a few times. Don't miss many tackles, but a few costly late. Played hard, tough one to drop. I mean, agreed, right? Like we talked about it. No sacks, although they did get pressure, and I think the D-line played well. We talked about how first 3 games last year, 2 sacks, 2 sacks, 2 sacks, and then after that, I think it was 7-7-6 or something like that. So sacks will come. Matter of time. I think the DBs tackled pretty well for the most part. But again, for the most part, had those couple late, not just them, but just the team collectively, couple big, timely, costly runs given up to Notre Dame. All right, let's switch gears, stick with football, and let's do this. Let's talk about the atmosphere that was on Saturday. Obviously, exciting times, new era. I think a sense of cautious optimism in the air for Texas A&M and a chance to get back on the national stage to start this off with Notre Dame in town, College Game Day paying a visit, and this was posted earlier today. This is about a 3-minute clip of Pat McAfee discussing his trip to College Station.
Coach Corso coming out with that little,
that was sick.
I don't say little. That's a little leprechaun. A little rude.
A little
He was
smaller mascot.
kind of undersized or whatever.
Standard leprechaun.
That was a cool moment, man. It was cool to be down there. That Texas A&M fans showed up. 110% humidity. Johnny Manziel, awesome to see him. He's got a podcast that's coming out. Von Miller stopped by. Dylan Gossett, who I believe is like a next country musician, he played throughout the entire break. So he was like a little country concert through the break.
Sweet. Pipes on it.
Yeah, can really sing it. And then we came back with like a minute left before that. The cannon thing, wild, obviously. Wow.
Yeah.
Glad
I was going to say, I almost got assassinated on live TV.
Yeah, it was nuts.
See, that tree above us there was kind of the issue because old buddy, the cadet next to me in rehearsals during commercial break where they were teaching me the stance. We're going here, and then we're going to here, and then we're going to here. And then fire and hole, that one right there. Oh, so we're doing the process in the walkthroughs, the movement from tip of sword at boot to arm down to straight up in the air. Hit that tree. You see that tree we're standing right next to, and then he lifted his hand up because I got to do my job, and he almost like sliced off, and his hand like hit the thing, and then he couldn't do that. So he moved just a little bit to give a little airspace. In person when I was staring at Cannon, I didn't think it was that close. Watching it back, I was standing way too close.
You're pretty close. Yeah.
I was standing way too close to that cannon. And
where does the cannonball go?
So
it
right
went
into
through
that
an
people.
old lady's chest, actually. It
Right
just
there.
kept going.
Right through those people. That cameraman Eddie was on the case here.
Yep.
He was. Did you see the photos of him dying?
Oh, yeah.
Afterward, he just absolutely laughing his ass off.
He's a dog.
Well, he is a dog. Eddie is an absolute dog. You could feel his energy literally through the lens whenever he's working. But yeah, I agree with a lot of the people that were saying like a little bit too close to the cannon. Because when I was standing there, it didn't feel like I was eye to eye with that muzzle. That thing was certainly off shoulder. But then I didn't even think about like, what if that fucker does just lift up and turn just a little bit? Because the amount of power it has. Cannons have been, they're not like the most.
That's sturdy.
I don't think we use them
Accurate.
anymore.
It cuts you in half.
That guy also had
happened.
very soundproof headphones on, by the way.
Yeah, everybody was kind of wearing it around me.
Yeah, big
I'm
old
not doing that because I'm not doing what Tony Stewart did to me last week, where I'm wearing a big thing. Nobody else is.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm not doing that.
He did.
I'm not doing that. A lot of people told me I was going to blow out this eardrum. Sorry, it already is.
So
No Cannon's
There you
going to
go.
be able to do anything. Shout out to Texas A&M, though. I enjoyed the vibe down there and how cool everybody was. I could see how that town, whenever they're rolling, like Johnny Manziel time,
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't even imagine.
the setup of like campus to where like everything.
Northgate is their bars area, but everything is like dorms are right next to it. Like everything is on very walkable.
Great property.
Great, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good layout of everything.
I've always heard it's a huge campus.
I don't know. I walk from stadium to.
But yeah, it sounds like you're saying it's
Everything's very gettable.
Half mile, probably.
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
like
country
it's,
mile?
It's definitely large. Yeah,
lot of
probably more of a
range.
country mile. That's a good point. But everything is like very close. It's perfect, actually.
It was a great town. We appreciate it. And then Morgantown was obviously awesome.
All right. I mean, by the way, just on that last topic, I think they're both right. Like it on one hand, it is a very large campus, but as you know, very walkable and very, especially for big events. I think it was cool. When the Cannon thing happened backstage, by the way. So the way it happens for us is they've got this, the stage, and then if you know Aggie Park, the new setup, they've got that pavilion, kind of with some shade. That's where all the VIPs were. We weren't in like the VIP section, but we were kind of on the periphery. But we're down on ground level. We can't really see how the show's going or see the show. We can hear it though. And I remember heard the cannon and then just like people dying laughing and then saw it later, of course. But yeah, I don't know. I think most importantly, first of all, I think Texas A&M probably right up a guy like Pat McAfee's vibe. So glad he had a good time. But I think it's important for people across the sport and anyone in this sphere to get the feeling and the understanding that if Texas A&M, if the sleeping giant ever wakes up, buckle up. Johnny Manziel is probably the closest you came to that, but you got to remember those Johnny Manziel teams, the Cotton Bowl, yes, that was a big win, but, I believe we were still BCS at that time. Like they were never really in the national championship conversation. And, the year after was a disappointment from a wins-loss perspective. So if Texas A&M ever is actually like a legit, gets in the playoffs, feels like a legit contender when they get there, yeah, buckle up. I think it'll be something to behold for everybody, and especially with how you can channel that enthusiasm into donations and NIL and the like. Let's do this. Dan Campbell, speaking of television, but this time an advertisement. Dan Campbell might win a Super Bowl this year, and he might win an Emmy as one of the best commercial actors you've ever seen. This is for Applebee's.
Welcome to Applebee's. Can I interest you in America's favorite boneless wings for just 50 cents each?
I'll have the 50-cent bone.
Cover your mouth. They could steal your order.
I'll have the 50-cent boneless wings.
I'll have the same.
Perfect. They'll never see it coming.
That was just too good. We need Billy Lucci to do like a Chili's commercial as his old college roommate. Listen, Dan Campbell and the Lions. Let's see. I don't recall who they open up with, but in terms of my thoughts on them in the NFC this year, I think you probably got to say maybe top 2 or 3, maybe behind just the 49ers. Let's see. They open up Sunday at home, Sunday Night Football against the Rams. So wish Dan Campbell all the best with his Detroit Lions, even as a Chicago Bears fan. Listen, I'm not expecting my Bears to necessarily challenge for a division title. If we can get to 9-10 wins, I'd be happy. So, I was rooting for the Lions when they were playing the 49ers in the NFC Championship game last year. If it comes to that again,
Welcome to Applebee's.
did not mean to do that. Hope they do get it done. All right. Last little thing on the agenda. We are going to talk some women's golf because they're the only other team, and some cross country. They're the only 2 teams that have played that have not, that we've not discussed to this point. Well, soccer has also. We're going to talk about them tomorrow as they play on Thursday. First of all, cross country. Both teams competed at the Cowboy Preview in Stillwater. Women got the win, a win from San Juanita Leal in her freshman debut from Edinburgh. So shout out to her. The women beating Oklahoma State Tulsa, Oklahoma. The men finishing second, but ahead of number 3 Arkansas and number 1 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma in 5th, number 28 Tulsa taking home the title. The top performer there, the sophomore Zach Munger. So Texas A&M cross country is never a sport that they're like set up to win and do well because of how they allocate their track scholarships, but certainly wish them all the best and love to see them do well. Women's golf, on the other hand, is definitely a sport that they are set up to compete in. The women's golf team, if you don't know, here's your quick 411 on the women's golf team. Last 2 years, or not last, 2 years, 3 years ago and 2 years ago, national semifinalists. You have the same starting 5 lineup. Last year, you lose Haley Cooper, who goes professional, graduates. By the way, she's doing great on her professional tour. You swap her out with Cayetana Fernandez Garcia Poggio, who is the sister of then senior Blanca Fernandez Garcia Poggio. She comes in as the number 2 ranked player in the world in terms of the world amateur rankings. Struggles a little bit, but picks it up toward the end of the year. They finish national quarterfinalists in match play. And by the way, there was an SEC championship thrown in there as well. Even though they make it to the national quarterfinals instead of the semifinals last year, they do win an NCAA title with Adela Cernusic. Now, you have to replace 3 of the starting 5. That's basically how the any championship level golf works at the NCAA level. You have 5 golfers, and you do stroke play, and then you do match play. Best of 5 of the match play wins in those knockout tournaments. If you haven't watched, by the way, you need to. Those things are so dramatic. I think it's the best team competition in golf. I think it's better than the Ryder Cup. I know the Ryder Cup gets a lot more eyeballs, but just in terms of the amount that is riding on every single match, and like you can't just write off like 6 of your players and try to win the rest. Like you have to win 3, and you only get to throw away 2 on any given day. So the question for the Aggies is going to be, of that starting 5 they had last year that was part of a group that made it to the Final Four 2 years and the Elite 8 last year. You have Adela Cernusic, who's the NCAA champion, coming back. You've got the aforementioned Cayetana Fernandez Garcia Poggio, who's now a sophomore. After that, it is wide open. Kainati Adams is a junior who transferred in from Alabama. Vanessa Boravillos, I think I'm saying that right, Canadian. She was ranked as the number 3 junior player in her class, I believe. You would assume that she will do pretty well. After that, you still need one more spot. You've got Lauren Wynn, Mia Nixon, Sky Sudbury, and and Kainati Adams as well. You've got to figure out who is going to make up the 5 and be your championship level roster. Each of them have some tournament experience, but a lot of them have been on the team for a year or 2, and now they got to go. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. I will say another reason I wanted to touch on them. I believe the rankings came out today, preseason coaches poll, and Texas A&M is ranked, I want to say number 11 and number 12 in their respective ranking. Oh, no, wait, hold on. Okay. Anyways, don't have the rankings in front of me here. They are evading me. Oh, no, my computer's freezing. Here we go. Number 9 on Golf Week. So there you go. Number 9 in the nation. That's what you get. And number 11 for Golf Channel. So number 11 for Golf Channel, number 9 for Golf Week. That's the team rankings for women's golf. Texas A&M, always a national championship contender. I will say golf is one of those sports where rankings when you get to championships are a decent barometer, but man, anything can happen. And we'll see if the ladies can get it done this year. Adela Cernusic, she is continuing to tear it up. She has professional, a lot of them have professional aspirations, but she has like immediate professional aspirations after the season. She made the cut for the U.S. Open. Katana Fernandez Garcia Pojio, we told you about her and how she came in so highly touted. She will certainly have those same opportunities ahead of her. I believe she'll be playing at Augusta National Women's Amateur this year, or she should be, if I'm not mistaken, by the criteria, as will Cernusik. And by the way, Blanca, Caetana's sister, playing fairly well. I think she made it through one of the stages of Q school. I'm not exactly sure where she's at right now, but that's what we got for you on this Tuesday. Again, be sure to tell a friend. I'm feeling a lot better. Still not 100% health-wise if you've been following my chronicles, but we're getting there. Feeling a lot better today. Voice is like 80% of the way back. So if you're like, man, this guy's just lame, no energy, just wait. But tell a friend, tell a neighbor. By the way, here's another challenge. We have had zero comments on All In Aggies on any of our videos. Be the first comment. We want this to be a conversation, right? We want this to be a community. Subscribe, like, comment, tell your friends, share it with an Aggie. Go watch some of our previous videos. We talk about all sorts of stuff. We talked about volleyball the other day, went out to that match, showed you some highlights. We have this as, I believe, the most subscribed to channel within the All In Sports Network in the early days here. It's only been, a couple weeks, but we are beating Texas and Baylor last I saw. So keep it going. That's the challenge of the 12th man that I present to you, the 12th man. Ben Peck here, All In Aggies. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your Tuesday. We will be back on Wednesday for more.
All In Sports Network. We love sports.